Hi, Mike. It's great to see you.
Hey,
Thanks so
thanks.
much for joining me. And I just wanted to catch up because I have seen some news that you've got a petition out and I wanted to talk to you about it.
Yep, let's do that. So, fire away.
So, what's the petition about?
So, we have a petition about rejoining Erasmus, and the timing on this is nice because there's been a lot of conversation about the Youth Mobility Scheme, whereby everyone who's got any sense thinks there should be a Youth Mobility Scheme. We do it with other countries. It's not free movement, it doesn't impact long term immigration. It's just the young people didn't get a vote on Brexit. Let's not screw things up for them. Just allow mobility for young people until they're age 30, and that's it. And it's obviously such a mutual good both ways. Keir Starmer has been shutting it down, or at least saying that there are no plans there. And we had in our back pocket our petition on joining Erasmus. Embrace Erasmus, because we want to avoid the word rejoining, because we just wanted to separate it out. Because actually, if you say, do you think it was a mistake to leave the Erasmus program? People say yes. Even people who voted leave are more likely to say yes than no.
And just to be pedantic a minute, just in case people don't know what Erasmus is,
Yeah.
can you briefly explain what it is and how it works and why it's a good thing?
Okay. Erasmus is an exchange program that allows young people from the UK to pick up placements and opportunities, usually for a year. It placement institutions on the continent and vice versa. And while we were running Erasmus, I mean, I think it was set up in the 1980s, 1987, I think. And it's just grown and grown and grown since, because it's been such a fruitful cultural exchange, and of course sets up many relationships for life, as in kind of working relationships, but even sometimes romantic and other personal relations, just friendships, right? And has provided a lot of interconnectivity. And we in the UK have generally received a lot more people from the continent coming over to us than we have sent going out, because, of course, all these young people want to learn English, the language of the world. And that has been massively enriching for a lot of our institutions, particularly our universities. But it's not just universities, I'll come to that in a bit. But certainly in our universities, those students at our universities that can't go out traveling elsewhere nevertheless get to meet students from all over the continent in their place of study. And these students who come over then spend money in the local economy, because they're going out, they're buying food, they're traveling around, getting drinks, visiting tourist spots, the lot. So it's kind of like super tourists for us. But a big misunderstanding is that this is just a middle class jolly. Whereas Erasmus has been expanding massively into teacher training opportunities, further education colleges. And in fact, there's a great article in Yorkshire Bylines about it, the further education colleges with Erasmus. They even help the young Brits get their passports and get their passports sorted and sort out the fundamentals of their travel, because their parents can't help, because their parents don't have passports, because their parents have never left the country. So there's lots of programs for people from disadvantaged backgrounds, and the government, ironically, even though they said that there was no threat to Erasmus, they then pulled it and said, yeah, it's too middle class. But do you know why they said that? They decided to ditch Erasmus because it had just expanded. It had got more costly because it had expanded to be more inclusive of disadvantaged backgrounds, disabilities, and all that kind of stuff. And they thought, no, we're not footing the bill for that. And we don't care about students coming here. We'll just replace it with the program which is about our own students going outwards. And ironically, because they weren't providing money up front, it's actually a lot less secure for disadvantaged kids to do it. So that's probably a much fuller answer than you were looking for.
And so
But anyway,
we've got a new government now.
yeah,
And at the moment, I'm not feeling. I'm hoping that Keir Starmer warms up a little bit because he's sort of reminding me a little bit. He's a bit Scroogey at the moment.
yeah.
Everything is no, or it's going to be tough. And do you think there's hope of influencing this government? I mean, at European
Yeah.
Movement,
Yes.
is there a plan to get going with campaigning? Which is why I was excited to see the petition, because I'm hoping you're going to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why the youth mobility scheme and Erasmus, they play off each other well. And when you're focusing on youth opportunities, there's so much hope in that. There's so much focus on the future and what could be. And when you've got a government that is saying, essentially, it's austerity again. We have to bunker down. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I know you voted for change, but we're not giving you much change yet. It naturally kind of puts a lid on pressure that's been building anyway and was building under the last government. And if there's something that this government is really going to give on with regard to Europe, surely it's the youth mobility scheme and Erasmus, because that's outside of their red lines. They're saying red lines on free movement, red lines on customs union, red lines on single market. Okay, but then why not this? Boris Johnson himself said that there was no threat to the Erasmus programme. So there is no mandate to be staying out of it. Those in Northern Ireland already have it because the Irish government decided to come in and pay for their opportunities. And the
The
Scottish
mad
government
thing, the
wanted.
mad thing is that the right wing are attacking Starmer and saying he's betraying Brexit anyway. So,
Yeah,
in my view, he may as well just go the full way because they did say in the referendum, loads of them, including Farage, that no one was threatening our place in the single market. So, for me, I can't understand why Starmer has decided to get behind Theresa May's red lines, which are they're just hopeless. They just don't work. I can't understand why he's pinned himself to them. But at
yeah. See,
least I think
why
if he
is he staying not just within the straitjacket of the Theresa May, Boris Johnson Brexit deal, but then tightening it further on things like youth mobility and Erasmus? I don't think that it can hold. I think that it's untenable that he should try. It doesn't provide the change, and also he is not going to make movement on that front. He's going to feel a hell of a lot of pressure coming from the left and the centre, and some places in the centre right, actually, ironically. And what you said about the Express and the Telegraph, they're going to crucify him if he even eats a croissant. It's kind of like, look at him engaging in European activities. We always knew that he was going to try and let us down. So, like you say, just go in there, put the boot in. You've just won a general election in
farmers
whopping
farmers
fashion.
would be
So then
delighted to have the youth
why are you going
mobility.
to the Conservatives and the Conservative press and saying, what am I allowed to do?
Farmers
You
would be
just
over the moon to have
crush
youth
them.
mobility because
Yeah.
it's costing them a fortune for fruit and vegetable pickers. So the system that they've got is not working. I spoke to a raspberry grower last week, a huge raspberry grower, and it's just not viable. The system just isn't working. It's too costly. They need freedom of movement back again. There's a whole load of experienced agricultural workers who work across Europe. We need that back again. Business is crying out for it, and you do wonder who Starmer is actually pandering to. We know that Theresa May had trouble in her own party, but that's not the case in the Labour Party.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
makes no sense.
I think the clue is in when Keir Starmer goes to Germany and says, we're going to get a deal for working people. And I think, what do you mean for working people? Because you're Prime Minister now, you're Prime Minister of the whole country. So that means that you need to care about people in work, people who've retired, young people in education, people who can't work because they're carers, and that's an important function, people who just have new kids, for example, someone who's given birth to twins or triplets. They're not working people, but they're working hard. So stay-at-home mums and dads and everyone who is in the economy, even people between jobs who are hardworking by nature, you have loyalty to them too. So why isn't he saying, I want to get a deal here for all Brits? Why is he saying working people? Is it because he's only thinking about productivity in the job market and getting growth and being divisive otherwise? Is it, and I think this is the case, that he's still doing that slight dog whistle about working class versus middle class and trying to say that his real interest is in the working class and Labour's roots like that. We don't care about what the middle class and cities think, and still playing that kind of campaigning line. Whichever way he's doing is getting it wrong, because he's not looking, as you were alluding to before, he's not looking big and generous and inclusive. He's looking
Yeah,
kind of
and
like
we
clean
need some.
counting here and there and telling people that,
We need some optimism,
yeah,
and we don't
yeah,
want everybody wanted shot of the Conservative Party. They didn't have to do a George Osborne and David Cameron in saying it's all their fault, because the country is not even interested in the Tories. They're not interested in the leadership. Everyone's had it with the Tories. And
yeah.
so to continue what the Tories did is actually really very grating.
There are two
I
sides
think it's
to
a,
that, Liz. One is they're complaining about what the Tories did at the
yeah,
same time as continuing to do what the
what the
Tories did
Tories
in
did.
the Tory model on lots of fronts.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the opposite of what people want. They want to forget the Tories. Everyone knew that the Tories blew it up. They don't need that repeating at the moment. They just want the breath of fresh air coming in and saying, it's different now. We're going to Germany. We're talking about opportunities there. Well, look, they started well with the deal with the junior doctors and saying, look, let's get that off the plate. We
Yeah.
want to invest in you. They should be doing that with pensioners as well. They should be doing that in other areas. They should even be saying, we'll borrow where we need to. We just need to get money into the fundamental workings of this economy. And also, we're prepared to break down some of those red lines with regard to Europe in order to help get the juice in. So the thing that we did just days before the general election is we did a poll on, do you think if Keir Starmer comes to power, he should reconsider his red lines on free movement, single market and customs union if it were to help the economy?
Yeah.
Answer, yes. Even majority yes from Conservatives. And with Labour, it's off the charts. So the public went to the polls thinking that, but particularly people voting Labour went to the polls thinking that. So it goes to show that he is restricting himself far too much, because fundamentally what the public want to see is new hope, new opportunities, growth, investment in them, security. And so putting the straitjacket on himself, whether it comes to farming, whether it comes to science, whether it comes to youth opportunities, traveling musicians, whatever, is don't restrict, invest.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, what I'm going to do is put a link up to your petition, because
Ah, yeah,
obviously
please do.
we haven't tested this. We've all got petition fatigue from the last lot. I mean, we
Yeah,
knew it was, we got 6 million signatures in one, I think, didn't we?
yeah,
And everyone thought, well, they're never going to move. But I think we
yeah.
need to test this government. And I would like to get a petition to reach really great heights. Hopefully this one will. I'd like to perhaps do something on maybe pushing on the single market and freedom of movement as well, because I'd like to see what Keir Starmer would do if he's confronted with a petition which reaches millions of signatures. And
Yeah.
it is, we just need to fire up people again and getting back into those things. But I think it's important to
There's another
start
thing with
campaigning.
petitions, and that's that they do build campaigning audience, because you sign a petition and then that builds up, and then you can get it in the press to angle things on. You can take it to 10 Downing Street, as we did recently with another petition. But also, when you do sign a petition, just click that thing that says, yes, I want to receive emails from the organisation, because the bigger the email list we build at European Movement UK, and that overlaps with Wales for Europe, Young European Movement in Scotland, the bigger that becomes, the bigger a home audience we have to be talking to about lots of different initiatives, where we can promote and get people engaging in lots of different things. If we want to get this country where we want to get this country, and that is confident, enthusiastic, and back working with our European team, it's going to take a societal shift. It's going to take a big old campaign. It's a whole ecosystem, which includes, what you're doing, Liz, in farming, what people are doing with regard to youth opportunities. It means turning around fishing industry. It means working with people in the city. It means regions all over the UK having their own links with their local politicians where they can push stuff. It means working with the new parliamentarians in terms of pan-European issues and their engagement with Europe. It's got to be big, but the more people you can get involved and give it structure, the better. And petitions are a really good way to get out to the music community and say, look at what we've got here. We're pushing this for you. Sign it and sign up, and there'll be more coming down the line here.
And turn up to the marches. I mean,
And turn up to the marches, turn up to local events, turn up to other things that we organise, and just, keep your ear in on it.
Yeah, I think we do need to build the camp. I think it went very, we had a fantastic movement before 2019. And once Johnson got in, it was such a big majority and everybody thought there was, it was pointless, I think, and COVID hit. But we definitely need to try and build that up now. I'm kind of really excited to push at Starmer's door and say, hey, we've had enough of this, mate.
I think it's amazing how we've bounced back, actually, because remember when Boris Johnson came in and the 80-seat majority was everything, and they were saying he's probably going to be in power for 15 years. So, until 2024, winning again, 2029, winning again, 2034, which would have absolutely killed things. He couldn't last long. His successors couldn't last long. And Brexit is a big factor in all of that, because they were driving their engines on pure bullshit. That's why they kicked out the sensibles.
Which is why Starmer's got to be sensible, because if he continues with Brexit, it'll eat him. I mean, Brexit takes no prisoners, put it that way.
Yeah, that's really that's exactly that. It's the poison chalice, but I like the way you put it there. It takes no prisoners. He needs to break out, or he's a goner.
Or he gets eaten by Brexit.
Yeah, by the Brexit monster.
And then God knows what
Get out of that Brexit maze as soon as possible. Here's a clue: start with the youth mobility scheme.
Well, and the demographics are with it. It just makes no sense. And he's already pissed off all the pensioners by taking their heating allowance. It doesn't, he's not like the Conservatives were wooing the pensioners. And so Labour really should be looking for the younger vote, which is why this petition is so important. Everyone needs to sign it.
And that's what I meant about the kind of like the working people line. It's kind of like you're running out of audience to appeal to if you're just talking about working people. And people who've retired, who are pensioners, are thinking like, hold on a sec, we're getting thrown under the bus. And the youth are thinking, hold on a sec, we're getting ignored. And a fundamental problem here is that Keir Starmer is not standing for anything.
Yeah, he's on the fence.
And his support in the general election was broad, but really, really thin ice, if you will. And if you don't stand for anything, then who's going to stand up for you when you get into trouble? And that's the problem that he's facing, because even the left wing and centre media are outright critical of him right now in his honeymoon period. On lots of fronts. If he wants to get an engine going again and get hope and direction and people backing what he's doing, it's dead important that he gets behind particularly what the youth want. And if you're looking at, the 18 to 24-year-olds, these are people that didn't get a vote on Brexit. Those people that were turning 18 at the time of the referendum will be 26 now. But with the 18 to 24-year-olds, you poll them on rejoining, and between 85 to 90% regularly would go for rejoin in a referendum versus 10 to 15% that would be for staying out. And that
it's a no-brainer.
is actually Nigel Farage's youth vote. Even amongst Conservative youth, when you can measure it, because it's a small vote, they actually tend to be pro-European, which is really, really interesting.
Yeah, well, let's hope that we get the numbers up on the petition, and when you deliver it to Downing Street, I might come with you.
Lovely, yeah.
And thanks very much for coming on the show, on my show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm loving it. I'm loving how you've built out your YouTube channel, and that we've got now more pro-European YouTube channels that are really developing an audience too. And I think that given that things haven't changed dramatically with Labour, it's got extra value because it's policy that matters, policy that's knocking on the door, and the door is slightly ajar, but not open enough that you can relax and say, yeah, the government's going to take care of it. They're not, without our pressure. And so I think the social media ecosystem that we're building is actually getting stronger and stronger. And it's really interesting to watch.
Yeah, well, I think people are getting their news more from independent sources, and the newspapers, especially the daily brainwash, as I call it, and people have losing interest in reading them. So even I subscribe to the Times, and a lot of I always read the comments, and a lot of them are leaving. They just said they've had enough. They're not providing what the readers want.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the way forward is be independent media.
Totally. And to add to that, it's much more interesting, the social media and independent media, than the broadcast media too, because the broadcast media get their steer from these newspapers, which include a lot of papers that aren't newspapers. They're just political pamphlets that engage in stories like whose portraits Keir Starmer wants to hang in what rooms, and it's Maggie, and don't you know Maggie's really important. She was kind of like, when was Maggie in power? Until 1992, wasn't it? How many years ago was
quickly,
that?
I did see something today which I thought was interesting. Murdoch is trying to buy Rightmove. He's going into property.
Well, maybe that's the right move, but
well, it's welcome that he's in property and out of the media.
The moment that he lets go of his grip on the media in this country, the better. I can't wait to see the back of him. He has just really poisoned quality conversation in a country that usually prides itself on, intellectual capacity, and is just wrecked it, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's been, well, I mean, the whole thing around that's what I say to everyone. I've got some friends who live on the Salisbury Plain, and I went to see them, and all they could talk about was immigration. I was going, well, how many, and the small boats. I was going, well, how many refugees do you see here on the Salisbury Plain? It's got a population of 2,000 people. There's more tanks than people.
Yeah.
And, well, we need to have an open debate about immigration. I was like, that's all we talk about is immigration. That's all everybody talks about. I said, what I want to talk about are the illegal imports that are flooding into this country, which actually really are a massive risk to all of us. They could kill you. You eat one bit of chicken that's got, a piece of pork that's got, that's been brought in illegally and is full of bugs, and you're dead. But and they didn't know about that. So where is the media reporting of the illegal imports? It's only in the farming press and in a lot of the trade press, food manufacturing, and in the grocer. There's nothing in the mainstream media about the fact that our borders have totally lost control of what comes into this country. And it's scandalous.
That's thanks to Brexit.
It's completely thanks to Brexit.
EU does good border control, not just for products, but also now with the new ETIAS system for people flowing in and out.
Yeah.
And we've put ourselves on the wrong side of it and making our borders super leaky. I mean, the irony of Brexit will last for centuries.
Well, yeah, it will. The truth of the matter is that
Even though Brexit itself won't, the story of its irony will.
Well, the rest of the world has certainly dined out on laughing at us. I think that's for certain. Anyway, I think we've already done enough. My dogs are under here eating they're eating their pig's ears. I don't know if you can hear them crunching.
I did hear some crunches, yeah.
My husband's just come back from bailing, and he's given them a pig's ear to come in and disturb me while I'm doing this.
Well, let's say hi to him from me.
I will, and it's been ages since we've been together.
I was going to say we need to catch up at some point.
You're coming to
my daughter goes back to school tomorrow, so then that's the end of the summer holidays, and I can sort of focus again on so many things to catch up.
You're coming to the march because I'm speaking at the march, yeah?
Good. Yes, I am. Yes.
So I'll see you at the march.
Excellent. Very much looking forward to it.
And and maybe you'll come on again. We'll catch up again.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, definitely.
Let's do some regular updates on how things are going.
So much to say, isn't there? That
Of course, I can never get bored and talking about Brexit. It's like having gangrene on my arms. It's sort of like it gives me anxiety. So if I talk about it, it makes me feel better.
Well, however you survive the craziness of this particular age, I think that's the only way to go about it, isn't it? Because otherwise, if you let it annoy you too much, it will burn you out. So you just have to find the entertainment of it,
the comedy in it,
in order to last as long as we have to get through this marathon and get to where we want to get to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the day that we celebrate being Brexitless. That'll be nice.
Yeah, bury it deep, and then crack open the champagne, and that's where we want to be.
Yeah.